Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones. Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we beat our skulls against the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I am Pete Broken Skull Mummert.
I'm Gerald Christopher. I promise to give it back, Porter.
And I'm Brian Reilly.
Hey,
welcome, Brian.
All right.
I wish I had more of an elaborate name, but it's just Brian Reilly.
Brian Reilly.
Well, you can tell us where you're from. Why would we have you on the show? You've already been on the show before, but...
I have, yeah. I teach medieval French literature at Fordham University in the Bronx. So, yeah, I'm not sure I have too much to say about the New World, but...
But you clearly know a lot about crystal skulls from other dimensions, and so, yeah. No wonder
that is my secondary specialty. Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
You minored in it.
Yeah. But we're here to discuss minute 103 of Crystal Skull, and that begins with everybody noticing that Oxley is just standing there holding the skull and staring at a big door, and it ends with that door being beginning to dramatically open.
So I have lots of notes about the items in this room, but Brian, you wrote a fantastic book that I haven't finished yet, but I've read bits of, called Getting the Blues. And it's all about how people in medieval times perceived color. And one of the things that jumped out at me about this room filled with artifacts is that everything is very monochrome. Like everything it looks like it came out of the ground. Like it doesn't look like things that they stored in a climate protected spaceship.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if you dug this stuff out of the ground, that's how it loses its color. But we forget that ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, they were colored sometimes quite garishly.
Yeah.
And we found fragments of the color on some of the marble and are able to reconstruct what they would have looked like. But they would have been painted realistically. It's not the classic white marble that you see, but that's a terrific point. Yeah, everything here, has already been dug up by some extraterrestrial archaeologist, I guess.
But I guess the idea is that the aliens grabbed this stuff from a vibrant, living society, before it became an archaeological.
Yeah, it was just like a
curiosity.
Well, they took it. It's a very. They are their own Indiana Jones in the Chachapoyan Temple, that is still. Being used, the idol is still in use. It's basically just taking the crucifix down from the church at the local corner.
Yeah.
Or from
we said,
Golgotha, even.
Yeah, just
done with
going in, going and just raiding the chalice from the sacristy or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, in a way, Indy and the aliens have a common bond there. They're just stealing.
They're looters.
The boot. Yeah, they just steal the Buddha from the temple of the Jade Buddha.
Well, this Buddha's weird looking. Like it's a strange. I've seen a lot of Buddha's heads, but this one's a weird face. But it looks Thai because it's got the flame aureole on the top.
And well, how come we don't see any other cultures? I mean, if these aliens are ubiquitous, how come we don't see any other Buddhas with alien elongated heads?
Yeah.
Wait, is that how it works? Wait a minute.
Well, technically, though, Gerald, the Buddha is famous for most statues after at least the Greek period. He had the Ushnisha, which is sometimes viewed as a top knot, but is in reality like a fleshy protuberance that is a graphic representation of his enlightenment. So in a way, he does have an elongated skull.
Okay, but is that related to the aliens?
Well,
I guess what I'm saying is, so we saw. Was it the Uga?
Mm-hmm.
We saw them sort of.
They also don't have elongated skulls, at least the current ones.
But the previous ones, when we went to the Temple of Oriana, there were elongated skulls.
Yeah.
I totally forget why we're expecting the artifacts to have elongated
No, I
skulls.
did- I-
Like, is the
wasn't
horse?
it-
No, that's a
statue
good
supposed
question.
to
Like,
have
No,
why?
the-
Why did they?
that's-
Why was it only the ones in Central America that had?
Well,
elongated skulls?
thank you, Pete. You're the I'm barely coherent, and you picked that thread.
You're more coherent in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to say, you've both now pointed out contradictions in this minute that have totally destroyed my appreciation for this film.
Oh, we're sorry. That was not our intention.
Well,
I mean, the monochrome thing is just gonna kill me. I don't know how it can go on.
That's also like a missed opportunity for the movie. Like, maybe stupid audiences, like I include myself in the stupid audience who wouldn't know that things were supposed to be colorful, before they became artifacts. But, wouldn't that be kind of pretty? Wouldn't that be even more vibrant and cinematic to enter this room with these amazingly colored statues and trinkets and things?
Well, and there's even a Chinese terracotta warrior, but it seems to have a bra on top of his head. But they were famously like very brightly colored, and so it's
Animal House.
it's like terracotta house.
Yeah.
But he's
Well,
also completely monochrome.
Yeah.
That's right. They were. Well, so we can't figure out. Maybe you can enlighten us here, Brian. So if the aliens are storing all this, did they pick it up in real time, like in an Indy way, where it's like, okay, so they're in Southeast Asia, in I guess 300 BC or 400 BC, and then are they, riding along with the Assyrians, and then are they, in Macedonia and 350 BC? I mean, have they just been on the earth for like 1,500 or maybe, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 years? They have early Egyptian stuff.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to know that, but other than, the dialogue in the last minute seems to imply that, right? That they did get it at the moment, at the time. So the fact that all of this is monochrome is just killing me. I'd never noticed that before. But yeah, so they were supposed to be around through history, and they have it there, and
Right.
now they can become museum pieces. I forget what Max says about making 20 museums worth of stuff. Also, I don't know how that's going to make him a lot of money, but
Yeah. We were talking about last minute how there's none of this stuff has any provenance or historical context. So it, in a lot of ways, it's just worth whatever you think it is.
Not only that, it's
artistically
been stripped. It's been stripped of all the color.
They took it out of the package.
Yeah,
It's worthless
if you
now.
this is a new old stock Buddha.
Yeah.
Where's all the
But faded,
all the
very
coloring?
sun faded. Yeah. But I feel like this is, I feel like this use of color speaks more to the filmmakers than anything else. Like, I feel like this sort of speaks to the idea that in Hollywood, ancient civilization is just it's just a generic ancient civilization. Okay, like throw in the ancient civilization stuff. And it doesn't.
And it looks dusty and stony, and it's got cobwebs on it.
Yeah, and it not only doesn't reflect reality, but it's a very simplistic view of something that I think is not very well understood.
Yeah.
I would like to just highlight one of the best quotes of this entire season, which Brian said was, "I'm not sure how you expect me to know that."
Yeah,
I think that just, it's
It's good to know the season hasn't peaked yet. We're still coming up with best parts. Thank you, Brian.
My pleasure.
Well, there's another thing that bothers me a lot about this room, and I'm assuming this might bother Brian as well.
Oh no, it
as a
probably
scholar.
doesn't yet until you're going to say it.
Yeah, get ready.
But like, not only does everything in this room look like something that was pulled out of the dirt, out of the ground because it's all lost its color, but for some reason they only seem to have collected bronze or metallic artifacts. They didn't go for like the paper or the wood or the stuff that maybe, if you have spaceship technology, you can preserve actual pieces of culture, like they could preserve books and culture and histories, and they didn't go for
Recordings.
any of that. Yeah.
Give us some sound recordings. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe there's another room. We don't know.
Maybe.
So if something hadn't gone wrong with the aliens, one of them hadn't lost their head and they hadn't gone like sort of dormant or whatever, could this room be filled with like the Declaration of Independence and like the Nina and the Pinta and the Santa Maria and all this stuff, but they've still like kept going out and collecting stuff, and like the first cathode ray tube and things like that, and would this be filled with?
You said the
more
Declaration
stuff?
of Independence, and my first thought of when I watched this minute was that this is the National Treasure movie. I mean, I think it's been commented upon before. That's exactly what it looks like. So if there were the Declaration of Independence, maybe there would be some trouble between studios about who's making what movie.
Right. Just a minute there, bub. Yeah.
It is interesting though that this section seems to be almost entirely Buddhist artifacts. So I wonder if they did at least have some sort of rudimentary cataloging system. Like they've got the Egyptian section, the Etruscan section.
Yeah.
So if they went from, I guess, civilization to civilization all around the planet, was it always a big deal when they landed? Like, did they have to take their spaceship off, like take off from wherever they are, like the Pyramid of Giza, take off, and then would they just, I mean, if you're thinking about space travel and then all you're doing is just going down to South America from the Middle East, you're like, do you just put the spaceship in idle? Like you wouldn't fully take off. You would
weren't
just
they
kind of
supposed to have
float
crashed here originally? Or am I making that up? Or that was other people later on? People,
I have no idea.
quotes, from other dimensions.
I don't know.
Well, no.
I don't
So
know.
at the beginning
Maybe
of the
not.
movie,
Maybe
a
these
guy
guys just
crashed at Area 51.
Or that was the
Yeah.
Roswell guy.
The Roswell,
Right.
yeah, the Roswell guy, and he's stored in Area 51.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that guy? Is he in this movie at all?
No. We left him in the tent
is he
in the
head?
jungle.
He's not the head, right?
No.
No, that's Oriana's.
Actually,
Where is that guy?
Don't ask.
I
We
think
don't
he's in
know.
the tent in the jungle.
He is. I think he is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
all right. So he's just.
is this the equivalent? Is this the interdimensional equivalent of Area 51? Like, is this just their warehouse?
Oh.
Like,
That'd be
I wonder if they have an
amazing.
Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, maybe. It's blue.
What if this is just their warehouse?
Yeah.
What if Earth is their warehouse, Jerry?
I like that. What if they have an Ark of the Covenant? So they're floating around.
Top interdimensional beings.
Well, I also was suddenly wondering, was Oriana a hero? Did he, like, stop this looting syndicate from taking all this stuff?
Oh. Oh, maybe.
I
He was
mean,
on a quest. He was on his own crusade to stop these crazy thieving
really
marauders.
I can't believe I just asked if Oriana was a hero.
Well, I mean,
Hey,
maybe
listen.
he was. Yeah, maybe he wanted to sort of bring back, redeem the conquistador name.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He said, you know what?
We're the ones that steal shit around here.
Yeah,
It's
these
not
guys
you
are too
guys.
good at stealing. Wait a minute. Gotta put a stop to this.
Is this the first time Marion notices the skull?
It almost seems like it. Yeah. Or Oxley. Did you notice Oxley for the first
She
time?
she actually comes over to the skull. I can't tell if it's the first time she notices it, or does the skull draw her in? And then when she puts her hand on it, what happens? Pete, I'm looking at you. What happens? Like, what literally happens? She puts her hand on it, and it goes like...
She gets shocked. Dude. Like, she could...
So
it's
is
like,
the skull electric?
It's the thing
a
from
plasma
Sharper
globe.
Image where you put your
Yeah.
hand on it. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
electricity goes and you pretend you're the emperor. Yeah.
I
Yep.
had to look it up. It's called a plasma globe. I think
Oh.
that's-
Wow, my
that's-
son has
that's-
one in his room. I didn't even know that. That's great. A
That
plasma
was
globe.
my first reaction as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everyone has to put their hand on it.
yeah, I
Right.
love that. I love it. It's like the total guy thing. Like, she gets shocked, so instantly Indy and Mutt, like, go do the same thing.
I can do it. Yeah. And then Mutt
But
takes
they-
out a penny and he puts it on top, and then he takes a key and touches the penny, and the electricity comes out of the skull. It's a cool trick that he learned. Yeah. We did that
What's
in high
weird
school.
is it shocks Marion, but it does not seem to shock Mutt nor Indy.
Yeah, well, they're men, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Yeah.
doing.
It's
Yeah.
kind of club it is.
Yeah.
Right. They're actually in intense pain. They're just trying to, fight it back so Marion looks like a baby. And then Mutt says something that's weird because he says they're all staring at this thing that Oxley's staring at, and he goes, "How do we open it?" And then I look at it and I'm like, "Wait, that's a door? How do they know that that's a door?" Like Oxley's staring at this thing, and there's nothing door-like about it. But he says, "How do we open it?"
That's a great point.
Thank you, Peter.
There's a lot that's problematic with that door and how to open it because it's a mystery that lasts.
Yep.
It's a mystery that lasts for a second, And I didn't. The first time I watched the minute, I just thought, he put the head against the door, but I didn't even notice that there's a skeleton sort of image in that little concave thing. So
Right.
as though it were like, oh, I should put the skull there because that's where the skull is, but forget the rest of the bones in the body. But so it's not. Yeah, it's an odd thing. It's a mystery that isn't a mystery. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. And how did he? I don't know. I got a lot of. We all have a lot of questions. I can tell. Like in olden times, and this is like an operating, interdimensional warehouse, whatever it was, and the guys were coming and going all the time. Would they just like walk up to it and like just stick their face into the thing, and that would open the door?
It is. It's like your iPhone. It's like your facial recognition.
That totally seems like that's like that joke that you in like 6th grade, like, here, smell the wall. It smells like onions. And you go over and the guy puts your face into the wall.
How? How many times am I going to fall for that? I just want to go inside. I think that's it. Yeah.
I'm trying to, or that maybe that's where Apple got the face recognition.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Skull
The
recognition.
iPhone.
Yeah.
But even Apple, you can hold your phone several inches away. Here, you actually have to go up and
have to smell your
headbutt
phone.
the door. So Apple has better technology than the aliens, I guess, is the point of that.
Yeah.
Well, they're the civilization that is still in existence.
Right.
Have you seen the grins on these two guys on the sides?
Oh, those are guys?
There are guys on the sides?
Like there's
I didn't
the skeleton.
No, I'm with
there's
you,
a
Peter.
snake
I
on
got
either
you.
side of them, like giant snake door handles. And then there are these portraits of these two guys, and like their mouths are pulled back, kind of Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah. That's a mite creepy.
So let me ask you this. What civilization is the door? Something about it reminds me a little bit of some sort of, some designs I've seen that are from like Indonesia, like wood carvings, that kind of stuff. It's something about it has that
Yeah, I
flavor.
can see that. Yeah.
But
it's also got a very it looks a lot like in the Anthropology Museum in Mexico City, they have a recreation of what Teotihuacan looked like when it had color on it, like when it was painted. And it looks a lot like that thing they've got there looks a lot like this.
Weird.
yeah, it's fascinating. The door is very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I'm
They wanted to
looking
look
right
cooler
now
than
with all
old
the
stuff.
pieces around, and they're unbelievably drab.
Yeah. It really ties the room together with all these bad
Yeah.
things. Good
The
focal
door's
point.
the accent wall.
Really draws the eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
again,
guess that answers why.
Yeah.
That's why it's monochromatic around it. That way it draws our attention to this door so we care anything about the door, which
There
we
you
hadn't
go.
otherwise before.
they actually scrubbed down all the statues and everything to make them a little more.
That door,
dull
for
and
some reason,
boring.
reminds me of Temple. The aesthetics of Temple of Doom at the beginning. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
Chinese
Oh,
in any
sure.
way.
Wow, good
But-
point. Yes.
Yeah.
I have 4 notes for this minute. 4 exactly.
Oh, that's how many I had.
Yeah,
too.
let's hear 'em.
I've already done 2 of them.
Yeah, it's 3 more than me.
What's your next one? Let's find out. What's your next note?
Well, actually, so at 3 seconds, I thought Marion's turn was reminiscent of Raiders. I was trying to find anything good to say about this minute. And,
You sound like us.
anything
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Where if it reminds you of Raiders or it reminds you of, for me at least, I like Last Crusade. If it reminds me of that, it adds to it. But Marion sort of turns around. It reminded me of her turn to the
Nice.
the door.
Yeah, I'm just watching that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Indy comes in for the first time. That comes back into her life.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
The problem, though, is in this movie, it's totally without meaning or significance, right? It's just she's turning. So it
like a
reminds
crazy
us
old
of better
man.
times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why you would expect me to know that. That's just going to be a copy and pasted all over this season.
I think your greatest line was, I don't think that has any significance here. Like, that's a great deal of this movie doesn't have any significance is the problem.
Unfortunately, I'm foreseeing these as blurbs on my book.
There you go.
Well, Brian, speaking of your book, I have heard that medieval stained glass windows, you see a lot of blue in them. Right. They're like blue is a prominent color. And I've heard that over time, the blue becomes even more exaggerated. It becomes even bluer because of how they had, I guess, constructed the blue, or maybe, I don't know, with a pigment or something. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
true?
it's the chemistry of the window itself, and the fascinating thing is the more architecturally they're able to expand the windows, the darker the blue gets. So it actually doesn't get much brighter inside. And
Really?
Oh, wow.
the best example of this is if you go to Chartres Cathedral, there are two different blues that you can see because there was a fire that destroyed the cathedral that was there in the 12th century, and it was rebuilt. And when it was rebuilt, they used the darker blue. So there are a couple windows that are from the 12th century that have this nice light blue, and then the later windows have the dark blue. And one of the most amazing windows is of the Virgin Mary. It's called Notre Dame de la Belle Verrière, and it in the center is the piece that survived, which is 12th century. So it's nice light blue, and then around it, the framing is the dark blue. So you get both blues in the same window.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's the blue is and it's so associated with Chartres that it's called the Blue of Chartres in France. Although some other towns also say it's our blue.
What made it blue?
It was either copper or magnesium.
Oh,
I forget
okay.
the chemistry involved. Yeah.
Huh. And then, I mean, I spent a lot of time in churches, and you're like, man, they're really using the blue. And then I read that, and you're like, oh, maybe then back when they made the window, it was a little more balanced. Although the blue gives it a certain vibe. You know, I mean, you go in and it's. I guess what you said. It's kind of there's a darkness to it.
It's
too.
very
You're
crepuscular. Like I like it, like at dusk or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it affects how in terms of your dark adaptation in your eyes when you walk from the daylight into the cathedral. It's very dark, and then even though it's a dark blue, the inside of the cathedral eventually becomes a lot lighter. So you have this sort of illumination that happens to you, and the stained glass is really just amazing. And Chartres again is a great example because they actually have it. They took it down right before I think each of the world wars, and there was an American soldier actually that also saved it from having been blown up by the Nazis. But they were able to take down the glass and then put it back up. So it's the original stuff. Most there are some missing pieces, but there's a lot of original glass there. None of it in this room.
Yeah. What was the hardest color for them to do on a stained glass window? Like you see some reds, occasionally you see a gold.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about that is I know more in terms of how hard it was to get color in your clothes. And at the same time that they're getting the darker blues in glass, they're also able to get darker colors in their clothes, like a true blue. In France, they use woad, which is kind of like indigo, but a little bit weaker. And then they start trading, with the Middle East, they get more indigo, and the blues become much richer. But some colors surprisingly are tough to get. Like green is a really hard color to get because most of your greens are natural dyes, and natural dyes will fade. Whereas indigo really is fast to the wool.
I color my clothes all the time.
Accidentally, or
that's the
like
smashed blueberry.
That's the salsa.
And that doesn't,
it
doesn't
How'd
come
you get
out.
this chili color into your shirt? That's amazing. That umber.
That's amazing about the clothes. One of the things that really messed me up is I think it's in one of Bill Bryson's books, and he was talking about glass being almost a liquid, like a state between a solid and a liquid, and it's very, very slowly oozing down to the bottom. So like medieval windows are thicker at the bottom than at the top.
Apparently, it would, even if that's true, I think it would take way too long. They also just tended to put the bottom part, the thicker part at the bottom, just in terms of physics.
Oh, okay.
So if the glass was a little uneven, that's how they would do it.
Okay.
Whether there have been any alterations over time, because it's only 800 years. I don't suppose so.
Okay, so
they
don't
sound like
they don't like melt. Basically, the stained glass isn't slowly melting or oozing down.
That's what
No,
I
I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, you make it sound like human beings have always been pretty crafty and clever and been able to build and do amazing things and didn't really need the help of interdimensional aliens. Is that what you're saying?
I forgot to mention that it was in fact aliens who constructed.
Oh, okay, that tracks. Cool, thank you. I was getting nervous there for a second that
I thought you had
entire
invited me
thesis
because
was
you
bunk.
saw me on Discovery Channel. You know, the ancient aliens.
It's actually alien blue.
Alien.
Right. There's no way that blue exists in human nature.
It's like
Forget.
Tau Ceti blue.
Are there any depictions of aliens in any medieval art?
If you go to Last Crusade, right? Isn't R2D2 and C3PO?
That's
in
right.
there?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're hired. Well,
I'm looking at this door some more, and again, like we had their weird entrance into this place in the first place with pulling out the thing and the sand and the thing, and the whole thing goes in and falling the thing of stairs and everything. It seems like the aliens only build stuff that can only be used once. Like the way this door opens, I cannot visualize how they would ever close it again. Or maybe this is the locked version of the door, but I don't see how, like who's gonna, they do this, like Indy puts his skull face in the hole, and like a thing comes down and knocks these two big round things, and those knock the arms out of the way, and then everything starts sliding. Like, how do you reset that? Why is the door made this way? Why is everything got to be so goddamn complicated all the time?
Well, I got a text from our buddy Dengar Dave. A little bit ago, actually today, and he was asking how the Russians are going to show up in a minute.
Oh my God!
How did they find the steps again? Like how did that all reset up at the top?
Yeah. Where'd they get all that sand to refill the thing? And then put the pylons back and put all the little squares. Oh my God. That must have taken forever. That's an excellent question. Sorry, Dengar Dave. I don't know how I'm supposed to know that. Is that the phrase? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do like how much this feels like a vintage pinball game though when it opens.
I mean, it is cool. I do like the kind of Rube Goldberg-ness of it. Yeah, that is cool.
But it doesn't feel like any kind of technology. Like it doesn't seem like high technology. It's very
just
Rube
looks like it
Goldberg
looks
kinda.
neat.
Well, who built this? Did the aliens build this door, or was this door built by the Ooga?
Well, see that brings up a question I had. Is a lot of the alien stuff is themed the same as like Mesoamerican stuff, and does this mean that the aliens just like kind of loved? You know, oh man, Tulum is so beautiful. I'm gonna copy all this stuff. Or were the people in Mesoamerica just the most adept at copying alien designs?
Maybe.
Which wouldn't be a great message for the film to send.
No, probably neither one.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Question for you, Brian. Why is it that Ox can't put the skull in the door? Why does Indy need to emasculate him by taking it? And then he does this thing like, I'll give it back, Ox, I promise. And you're like, okay, so...
Don't be such a baby.
Ox is clearly the steward of the skull, right? I mean, he's the liaison. I mean, that's what the intermediary is what I'm looking for. But then Indy comes in at these important moments. Why is Ox there? Why do we need Indy to do the important steps?
Is Indy the tallest one in the room? Is he the only one that can reach the top?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Look up John Hurt on IMDb, see if we can get his height.
That's a great. I think you're right.
It could be, but we're also we kept questioning that too because Oxley was sort of the steward of the skull. He was the only one who had kind of like connected with it, but now Indy has too since he was in the jungle and in the tent in the jungle and stuff. So either he should just let Oxley do it, or he should take the skull and be like, "It's mine now." Like, I don't have to give this back to you. I don't know why he's... I guess it's just like, it's also Oxley's teddy bear, and he's not gonna sleep well if he doesn't get it back, and he's just being nice to his friend, I guess.
Does Ox do anything?
No.
Actually, like, perform any actions? Yeah.
No.
He sort of
So it's
does
just a continuation
in a
of it.
couple minutes.
No.
Well, he
Does
sort
he
of
really?
like lets go of the skull so it can fly up to the skeleton, doesn't he?
But
I don't know.
he's
Is
not
that more
tossing
like,
it up then.
I think it was
Yeah,
more
I
like
don't-
grabbed from him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get
yeah.
there. I think the short answer is no. He doesn't do a blessed thing in the entire movie. Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, so he has no agency. So so Indiana Jones is the only one that has the ability to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his
So
name's
he's the
right there in the
protagonist.
title.
But
Yeah.
what's strange is they make such a big deal of the relationship that Ox has with the skull. That's
Yeah.
that's all. I don't know.
I don't know either, Jerry.
Maybe he's the best at keeping the skull safe. Maybe he just
Yeah.
that's a special power. He can go over 3 waterfalls and clutch the skull, and that's
Yeah.
what he does. Maybe he's appropriately named Ox.
Yeah.
He's just a big, goofy guy who will
Yeah.
not. He's kind of like, I don't know, Lenny in of Mice and Men with the rabbit. He's just, that's all he can do is hold the rat.
Yeah.
Just keeps petting the rabbit. He just keeps petting the skull. That's it.
He doesn't
go
seem to
well.
get shocked by it. He's the
Yeah.
only
No,
one
it's
that-
true.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
They've got an
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
Either that or he's constantly getting shocked by it.
It's just his thing. He likes it.
I went through all 4 of my notes.
Yeah, here we go. That's pretty good. We made
Oh,
it
wait.
1.5.
There's one
Oh.
more big thing.
Oh.
When Indy holds up the skull to the door, it makes the sound of the Death Star gun.
Oh, really?
It does that.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
That
like the
means
one.
something.
That's why, like, they had to throw in some technology, even though it doesn't look like technology.
Right, stand by.
You
were saying something about boop, boop,
yes,
ba-doop,
I was
Jerry.
thinking about something about that. I was thinking, speaking of constantly getting shocked, speaking of standing by, this just coming in over the wires from Professor Christy Porter.
Oh.
What college did Indy get rejected from? Wow. Maybe Fordham.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe Fordham.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's possible.
We have a famous dropout, but we don't have I don't know if we have any famous rejection.
Oh, okay.
Oh, do you really?
Who's your famous dropout?
Is it? Yeah.
Well, or a transfer, I guess. He who shall not be named.
Oh,
his
even better.
transcripts released.
Ah.
So,
Wow.
That's good. How's Fordham doing?
not too bad, actually, for him for the first time. It's a Jesuit university,
Yeah.
and we're getting a new president at the
A
beginning of next
female?
year.
Is it a female?
yes.
Yes,
It is,
I read
it
about
is.
that.
And hilariously, so it's the end of a tradition. There just
Sure.
aren't as many Jesuits around these days. But if I read correctly, her father was a Jesuit.
Oh well. I mean, I say that after I had 18 years of Jesuit education myself, so I know that. I mean, that's a welcome change, but I also understand that it's like, yeah, of course, the president of it was always a Jesuit priest. They do that, whether qualified or figurehead, or however you want to say it. That was important to the Jesuits. That's what they did. That's how I knew that was. Entering a new era and an era that I welcome. But yeah, that's cool.
It was pretty big news. I mean, there just aren't. So my uncle was a Jesuit, and when he was in seminary, there were probably about twice as many Jesuits in the United States as there
yeah.
are today, and their average age is quite up there.
Yeah, yeah.
And also they've changed their. They've always been interested in social justice issues, but they're not as many in university situations. A lot more of them are doing more social work and things like that. So.
Well, it's funny. My uncle's a Jesuit, and he went to the same high school that I went to in Cleveland, Ohio, and he graduated, I think, I think it was class of 1945 or something. And back then, I don't know, there'd be something like 15 or 20 kids in the class would enter the seminary, or at least be seriously considering a sacerdotal life. So when I graduated, I don't think there was a single one who entered the priesthood. Maybe one or two went to the seminary, and I'm sure they're on a pirate ship right now in the South China Sea. So.
Yeah, no, my father studied to be a Jesuit, and luckily for me, he did not continue on to become one.
Yeah,
But
that's how I got some cousins. I got some cousins that way.
Well, I guess that'll do it for 103.
Yes.
Jerry's got some cousins. Fordham's doing well.
Yeah.
The store is breaking, never to be opened again. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And having watched 1 minute, I am now amazed that you can have a show about just 1 minute. I'd never watched a movie 1 minute at a time before. I've listened to you talk about movies 1 minute at a time, but but it is extraordinary what you do, seeing it from the other side.
I'm impressed with you that you got 4 notes out of it. There's a future for you in this nonsense.
It was a struggle.
Well, speaking of struggles, everybody, you should come back next week. Jerry like that. For minute 104. Oh, before let me say this. If you want a real struggle, you should join us over at our Patreon show. We have a Patreon page over there at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. For a low recurring fee, you can get early access to this show. You can get our bonus show, Anything Goes, which is actually a ball and a half. We just heard from some people who have stopped listening to this show, but still happily listen to our Anything Goes bonus show because we're having fun over there. It's a great time. So join us over there. Join us over on Facebook at the Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade group over there. We're at Indiana Jones Min on Twitter, and at Instagram we are Indiana Jones Minute. Could not be more sensible. But do please, it's not a torture, it's fun, it's excellent. Join us for minute 104 of Indiana Jones and the, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? That's it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
There you go. Thanks be to God.